to be taking a daily inventory, setting matters right as we go along, living our lives in love and tolerance of others, and constantly turning our thoughts to someone we can help. Other things have happened as a result of working the first 9 steps, and these are described for us in the following paragraph, and then the paragraph down at the bottom of page 85. Briefly, we have entered the world of spirit. We know that from the 10th step itself. Remember in the 2nd step that we came to believe that God could restore us to sanity. Now, we did not come to believe at that point necessarily that He would, but we gave Him and granted Him the power to do this, that God was strong enough and powerful enough to remove our insanity, to restore us to sanity. And now we find that as a result of working the first 9 steps, that in fact has happened, that we have been restored to sanity. We find that this has happened automatically. We also have looked to see what these promises are, and these promises are the same things that we saw back in the 3rd step, and again in the 5th step, and now they've all come to fruition as a result of working the first 9 steps. We also remember that when we got to our 3rd step, or our consideration of the 2nd step, that the Big Book told us that what this book was all about was for us to find a power greater than ourselves which would solve our problem. And now we get to the 10th step and we find out that our problem's been solved, that it does not exist for us, that the problem of alcohol has been removed. And you see, all along this was always the truth. The problem is that people weren't telling us the truth, that we weren't doing anything here about that required us to swear off. We don't swear off drinking. We seek God. And when we have reached a point of surrender, as we have now, the alcohol problem's removed. We no longer have the obsession, compulsion to drink. It's gone. And this has happened automatically. The Big Book says we've not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. And then finally, in the last paragraph on page 85, it tells us what has happened with us spiritually. It tells us that if we've carefully followed directions, we've commenced to sense the flow of God's Spirit into us. Just as we read about back in chapter 4, that this is where we're going to find God, deep down inside of us. We are spirit, He is spirit. He is of us, we are of Him. And now we find that this has in fact happened, that we've sensed the flow of God's Spirit into us. Why? Because we carefully followed directions, not because somebody talked us into it. Not because we've lost all our issues, or we found out all of the things about ourselves that triggered us. It had nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with having surrendered. Having done the work to clear away those things in ourselves which block us from God. And so we've commenced to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. And even more than that, we have become God conscious. These things have all happened because we worked the steps. And we've developed a vital sixth sense which allows us to be inspired and to be intuitively in touch with God. All of this having happened, then, we now realize, we find that we have drawn close to God. What were we doing here? We had to get close to Him, because now we know that we must stay close to Him. And if we've gotten close, now we got to stay close. We have to be free of the things that block us off so that we can stay close. If we stay close to God, He gives us everything we need. When we get what we need, we find that it's just what we wanted all along. Now, another part of staying close to God has to do with what we learn about the 11th step. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact. You see, the 11th step tells us we now are in conscious contact with God. And through prayer and meditation, we seek to improve that conscious contact. But remembering to pray only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And so now we've reached this point where we know that from now on it's going to be necessary for us to take these actions which will keep us close to God. We know that we have only a daily reprieve, and that our daily reprieve is contingent upon maintaining our spiritual fitness. Maintaining spiritual fitness means precisely spiritual growth. We do not stay spiritually fit standing still. Spiritual growth then is practically entirely a product of the 11th and 12th steps. You say, well, wait a minute, what about the 12th step? Where's that spiritual growth? Simple. Go back to what Bill told us in his story. He said if an alcoholic fails to enlarge and perfect his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he doesn't survive. And so the 12th step and 12th step work is a major factor in enlarging and perfecting our spiritual life. Right along with prayer and meditation and continued inventory. Now the 11th step, as it is set up for us, is composed of 3 parts. The first part of the 11th step is an inventory. Yes, I know, everybody tells you it's the 10th step. It is not. The 11th step inventory is entirely different, has a different purpose, and leads to a different result. The 11th step inventory leads inexorably to forgiveness and to a review of our day to see if we've in fact done the things during the day that we were supposed to do. That's why we do the inventory at night, to look back to see what's happened. The 11th step inventory, being inventory, also ought to be in writing. And if we look on page 86, we find that there are 10 questions that we're going to ask ourselves every night. And we need to write down the answers. The first 4 questions have to do with the same cardinal defects. Looking back on the day, today was I resentful, today was I selfish, today was I dishonest, today was I afraid. Those are the first 4 questions. We're looking back. And one of the things we're doing is to look to see if we in fact did our 10th step. Did we take care of these things during the day, or did we put them off till tonight? Do I owe an apology? Did I do my 9th step during the day? You see, we're looking back. Have I kept something to myself I should have discussed with someone else at once? 5th step. Did I do that? Or do I still have to do it yet tonight? Have I gotten off the path? Was I kind and loving toward all? Did I follow the imprimatur I learned right on 2 pages before, that love and tolerance of others is my code? This is what I must live my life by. Did I in fact practice love and tolerance? And if I didn't, I need to take a look at it. I need to see that I got off the path there. Was I thinking of what could I have done better? This is a great question. It's a question we've already seen examples of in our 4th step. We have to look to see, in general, what is it that was going on in my life? For example, was I in fact leaving the results up to God? Was I in fact doing everything as it presented itself? Did I slip and slide around and let stuff go and procrastinate as I used to? Did I in fact do the next right thing as it presented itself? What could I have done better? Was I thinking of what I could do? Was I thinking of myself most of the time? In other words, I have to look to see if I'd slipped into selfishness and self-centeredness and self-centered behavior. Or was I thinking of others and what I could pack into the stream of life? Thinking of others, giving back rather than taking, exactly what it is that God expects of me. And having completed this little inventory, then if I have gotten off the path, I find at the bottom of that paragraph something that's extremely significant and just slips right by people who think this is the 10th step. It's the only place in the big book where we're told, instructed, directed to ask for forgiveness. And we ask for forgiveness precisely because we do find that we have slipped off the path. Not every day, of course. And as we go along and we get better and better at this, it may be that we will seldom have to ask for forgiveness. But maybe at first it's like it comes up every day. We found that when we did our 4th step what this forgiveness is all about. If we're sincerely sorry for what we've done and are willing to let God take us to better things, we will be forgiven. So here we ask for forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures ought to be taken. You see how it works? This is not the 10th step. This is the 11th step. It is a highly spiritual step. It's a highly spiritual part of the 11th step because it keeps us centered on what's going on with us today. What is my present reality and what do I need to do to improve? And I'm not going to know that if I'm sitting there letting all my thoughts be in collision with each other and never any resolution, and it's all a bunch of craziness.
Jim? On page 86, I have a question about the last 2 sentences of the second full paragraph. It says, but we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. Could you elaborate on that for me? I don't quite understand that.
Can you remember any nights lying awake, worrying about stuff, remorseful about things you've done, morbidly reflecting on the past or the possibilities for the future?
Sure.
And did that not block you off from being helpful to others? Isn't that the ultimate in selfishness and self-centeredness? You see, your job is to be of maximum service to God and the people about you. If you're going to be loaded and loaded down with worry and remorse and morbid reflection, you're not going to be worth anything to anybody. And so what it's just telling you, keep the decks cleared, man, because your job is to be of maximum service to God and the people about you. That's what you're here for.
I understand.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I'm Rose Rimmer, Grateful Alcoholic. You know, looking at that question, I know people, and I know I've been in situations where it was very easy to drift into worry and remorse because of the powerlessness over the situation.
Uh-huh.
And somebody that was in your life that might have been in danger, in a dangerous situation, and there was nothing you could do about it. Absolutely nothing. When the state of Florida took my daughter from me, off she went with this man, lone man, followed by the police. I tried to follow. They blocked me off because I wanted to treat her with homeopathic medicines, and the hospital didn't see fit that I should do that. They took her from me, literally ripped her out of my arms, and off she went. Now, the only thing I did was I knew to do so that I wouldn't go running my car through 441 and Coral Commercial Boulevard at the HRS building and go making a scene and end up in jail, was I just turned it over and I called some people and said, you always threatened to take my child from me because I wanted to treat her with homeopathic. Now the state has. You deal with it. I mean, that's all I could come up with. But I guess what my question is, you know, I didn't understand the program back then the way I do now. But when I look at this and I think about some people and friends in my life right now, they're in a similar situation where they have no control over what's going on with their kids. And there's nothing they can do about it. And they're powerless and they're trying to, you know, figure this out and find out where they are and da-da-da-da-da. I mean, it's very difficult not to drift into worry and remorse, especially when you've had experiences in your life that trigger all those old fears. Because I had similar experiences in my life, and it triggered all the fears, like a lot of people. So my question is, how do you get a grip on that? You know what I mean? How do you, is it, I mean, if that were me, I'd be in church 24/7 just praying. I wouldn't know what to do. I mean, I would be, either that or,
Well, you said the key word, didn't you? Powerless.
yeah.
If you're powerless, you have no chance to get a grip on anyway, do you? That's exactly why we have to let the whole thing go. Because we can't do anything about ourselves. But if we don't let it go to God, if we don't say, God, I can't handle this. This is totally beyond me. From here on out, I'm going to leave it in your hands. If we don't do that, we will drive ourselves nuts. Yes.
I was in a similar situation, which I'm presently going now with a daughter. It's a tough situation where I'm powerless. So I called my sponsor up, and the best solution for me is when he assured me that my daughter has her higher power the same way as I have my higher power, and the thing will be played out in God's hands. That's the only thing you can tell me. And I'm hanging my hat on that because I can't do anything. Well, the craziness that my daughter's involved in or the situation, except pray over the situation and have I'm convinced that she has her higher power that will work in her life. He couldn't give me any other thing. This is what he told me from his experience. Because I never get any advice from Joe, only what he's experienced. And that's what he told me.
Okay, well, let's take... excuse me, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. That's it.
That's what helped me, the fact that he reminded me she also has a higher power working for her, and she's not that helpless.
That's a good point. Open your book up to page 45. Go down 5 lines from the top. Our human resources, as marshaled by the will, were not sufficient. They failed utterly. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where and how are we to find this power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. It means, of course, that we're going to talk about God. And that has to be the answer, because we don't have any other answer. If you postulate utter powerlessness, which means that we have no power in this, and we're completely frustrated, we're dead in the water, we're stuck, we don't know what to do, there really is no place we can go with this. It's just what you said. You can't get a grip on it because there's nothing to hang on to. We don't have that kind of a grip. This is exactly the place where we have to go to God. And you see, it's a big help if we've got enough faith to believe that when we turn it over to Him, it's going to work. And that development of that faith is something that we assiduously work for around here by taking one leap of faith after another. And every time we do and it works, we say, wow, that worked again. Holy cow, this guy is all right. He does take care. He does care about me. I'm not just some non-entity. God cares and loves me. And if I appeal to Him and if I go to Him and with humility, and if I tell Him, God, I'm powerless here. I can't do this myself. I need your help. Please help me. He helps me. And when I know that's going to happen, what do I have to be afraid of? If I'm going to be sitting there in remorse and worry and morbid reflection, I'm insulting God. Saying, I don't trust you. That makes sense?
Definitely.
Yes.
Hi, Jen. I'd just like also to share that when that prayer is done and you do give things up to God, sometimes we have in our heads what we think the right solution is to the problem and
Sure.
what the outcome is supposed to be.
Mhm.
And it's so wonderful to have the 11th step so that we are aware that whatever His will is, whether it's ours or not, is really what's going to prevail. That
Of course.
solution to that prayer may not always be what we expect. And a lot of times when it isn't what we expect, it's a much better solution than what we could have ever thought of for ourselves in the beginning.
Well, sure, absolutely, and the faith that is so will lead us in the right direction, won't it?
Yes.
Because we will take this situation of where we're powerless, and we'll say, God, I can't handle this. I've got no power here. I need your help. Please show me what you want me to do. And we won't just say the prayer and then walk away from God. We'll say the prayer and then we'll stop and listen to God in meditation. Now, what's the big book tell us? The right answer will come if we want it. And that's the truth. And we come to rely upon this. I mean, this is the way this is part of living a spiritual way of life. The prayer and meditation are not optional. Meditation is not optional. These are all the tools of the program. This is the way we live our lives when we've had a spiritual awakening. Yes, dear.
Yeah, I'm having a really hard time with my daughter. She's 14, and I needed to hear this. I feel like crying.
Sure.
She's a good kid, but she's really dependent. I mean, she's not reaching out because she got hurt from a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I should take her to therapy. She's a good kid. I don't think I'm going. But, it's just hard. And I know when my mom passed away 4 months ago, I got on my knees and I asked God to help me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm crying like this. And He helped me. He gave me the strength.
Sure.
And I'm just having the hardest time with her because everything's going good in my life, but this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I just had surgery a few days ago. I guess maybe that too. The anesthesia, but I don't want to blame it on that. I've been going to meetings every day since then, and I'm just having a hard time, And I know I need to get on my knees and ask God because He always gives me the strength.
You need to ask God to keep reminding you every day that the mission of a teenager is to drive their parents nuts. And they get over it. And maybe you will too, They change your life forever. And change is always a little bit painful, All three of my kids were AA brats, and I think I told you guys I was a single father after I got into the program. My wife was hauled off to the crazy bin, and she never came out. So I raised those kids myself. Well, I really have to be honest and say that I had a little bit to do with it, but I give a lot more credit to AA than to myself and to God, because they learned right away that they had to do what we're talking about here. They learned to go to God too. And they worked their steps when they were in early teens. We used to have Alateen, you remember, Claudia? Yeah, and maybe still have it out there. It was a really powerful group, and these little kids were in there learning their steps and working their steps, and then shaking their fingers at their parents. Now you get to me, you're not working your 10th step. Nasty little kids, And I don't mean to make light of your situation, because I've been there and I know. But I can tell you one thing, that sometimes the best thing you can do with a teenager is ignore the hell out of them. Just let them be. Because there's not much you can do to change them. I mean, you can whip them and beat them and stick them in a dark corner somewhere, I suppose. But that doesn't seem to work too well in terms of their emotional growth. So they're in this business of dependency. What the hell? Every one of us in here came through dependency. We know what that is. We have to grow out of it. And the only dependency that works is dependency on God. The moment that we put our dependency on other people, we're automatically in trouble, aren't we? Not because they're bad, it's just they're going to disappoint us and frustrate us. And we can't grow, nothing can happen positive in our lives until we place our reliance on God and take it off of other people. And that's one of the great lessons of our book and of the steps. And the beautiful thing is that the more we rely upon God, and the more we take one leap of faith after another, the more we find we can rely on Him, and that means our faith continues to grow. And that is a wonderful growth experience, the growth of faith. I'm pretty convinced that faith which is artificially inseminated in somebody's head is not faith at all. I think the faith that we acquire is the faith that comes because we experience God working in our lives, and we know that we can trust Him. We just know it. And that knowingness is the comfort zone, isn't it? You can trust Him. Remember that old movie a long time ago, Leave Her to Heaven? Leave Her to Heaven. I think for me, I just tried to be the best father I could be, and I kind of let those kids mature on their own, and they came out of it real well. Both of my daughters are 9th degree black belt Al-Anons. Yeah. And I pity their husbands, man. Woo. And you know what my role in all of this is? I am my alcoholic. Do you ever go to an Al-Anon meeting? That's where they sit around and talk about my alcoholic this and my alcohol, like they owned us, for crying out loud. Oh, man. Why do you think they're in California and I'm in Florida? I had to get away from those two. Oh, God. A little bit of knowledge is a very dangerous thing, I guess. All right. Holy cow, guys. What are you doing to me here? That's okay. You know, we don't have any time limits in this meeting, do we? And we don't have any script. We just kind of play it as it lies. So let's see what we can do about this 11th step. Now then, we've looked at the inventory, but there's also prayer and meditation. If I go to Linda, and Linda's a dear friend, and I really love her, and if I go to her and I say, Linda, I got a real problem now. Please listen to me, and I'm going to tell you what this problem is, and I need your advice and your answer. And now I tell Linda all about my problem, and I just spill my guts, and it's all there, and I'm begging her, please help me. And she's considering what the answer should be. She wants to do it right. She wants to give me the very best advice. She looks up and I'm gone. I didn't wait for the answer. She got to think I'm absolutely nuts, doesn't she? Isn't that what we do when we pray and then we don't meditate? We pray and then we don't listen for the answer. We know the right answer will come if we want it. Maybe that's the problem. We don't want the right answer. We want our answer. That's why, you know, when we get to our 4th step and we're looking at our sex inventory and we've got a problem with sex or sexual partner or whatever it is, and we've already figured out that this liaison must be God's will, even though she's only sober 3 days. I'm sure it's and so now I pray, God, show me your will for me, and is this what you want me to do? And the right answer will come if I want it. And if I don't want it, I'm going to have to make up the answer so I can run and tell all my snooty, snobbish, nosy friends who are criticizing me for, you know, it's God's will. I meditate, it's God's will. And we can do all kinds of screwy things with God's will, but the truth of the matter is, it's kind of automatic. If I pray and I ask God to show me what He wants me to do, and I'm willing to accept the results, I'm going to get the answer. There's a little prayer I use for meditation. I'll just share it with you. I teach this to my sponsees, and whenever we do steps together as a group, we get the 11th step. We always do a little meditation, and so this is the prayer that I use. It goes like this: God, this is your day. I'm going to trust you in all things today. Please show me what you want me to do, and I will accept the answer no matter what it may be. God, please give me the power to carry out your will. Amen.
Could you repeat that?
And that way, I've committed myself not just to listen, but to accept the answer no matter what it may be. And it works. Now what the big book tells us, look on bottom of page 86 now. We ask God for inspiration and intuitive thought or decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We're often surprised how the right answers come after we've tried this for a while. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Notice that language, working part of the mind. This is not something that's now as ad hoc out here. It's not like going to the movies. You get the message and you leave the movie. A working part of the mind, this vital sixth sense. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable that we're going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. Nevertheless, here's the rule. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. And that's the truth. That's what happens. And we learn to meditate by meditating. Nobody can teach us to meditate. People can teach us how to go or whatever. Can teach us what to go down to the local religious store and find exactly the right CDs to play. There's even probably some scripts around that you can use for guided meditation. You can buy the crystals, the incense, and the candles. But nobody can teach you how to meditate. Only you can teach yourself, because it is a learning process between you and God. It is not a learning process between you and other human beings. So if you want to learn to meditate, meditate. It's amazing how quickly that can happen too. And then finally, we're going to learn to pray, and the prayers ought to be for knowledge of God's will for us, power to carry out His will. Many of us have difficulty with this because we've been taught and we believe that ask and ye shall receive. Seek and ye shall find. And there are religions which emphasize that if you want to be wealthy, ask for wealth, and so forth. And we don't take any umbrage at that. That's fine. It's whatever anybody wants to do. For us, what we found is just what it tells us here. Look on page 87. The first full paragraph, about halfway down the page. We ask especially for freedom from self-will, and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. But that probably does not include asking for a new car so that we can take people to meetings. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why. Oh, come on, Bill. He's got all these throwaway lines. You can easily see why. I couldn't see why. I don't know about you guys, but it took a long time before it became clear to me what was going on here. Now, I can tell you this, too, that if you pray for something which will help you grow spiritually, that'll be answered right now. I know. I mean, it works that way from me and everybody I know. Ask for something that will help you grow spiritually, it'll be answered right away. I've been asking for a house on the bay, a 50-foot Matthews, and a trophy blonde now for 38 years, and it hasn't worked yet. And some people say God has a sense of humor. I don't think He's got any sense of humor at all. Anyway, guys, next week when we reignite this fuse, we'll take a look at the 12 steps, see how the 12th step melds in with all the other steps, and then we'll see what happens after that. We might even start going on and reading some more. Who knows? Well, thank you for allowing me to be here and share all this stuff with you. And who's going to do the chips today, please? Linda is going to do the chips. All right, Linda.
My name is Linda, I'm an alcoholic. Here in Boca Pines, there's a chip system that denotes the length of clean time. The white chip is for up to 29 days, if anybody wants to surrender to this disease. The red chip is 30 days.
I don't know, ask her. 90 days.
Okay, 90 days. 6 months, blue. And we celebrate the last Sunday of every month. What's the name up on the board?
Thank you, Linda. Anybody have announcements for the good of AA? How about commercial announcements? Bingo parties, golf matches, new softball teams forming, or whoopee parties. Whoopee parties. Okay, I want to remind all of you that we're doing a sponsorship workshop on Saturday afternoons at 1:30 at the 101. We've got quite a few folks from up in this area coming down there every Saturday. And right now we're learning how to teach the steps. And we're looking at the 4th step and how to teach the 4th step. I'd love to see you down there if you don't have something else you are committed to do on Saturdays at 1:30. It goes from 1:30 to 3. Anything else? Anyone have an irresistible impulse, also known as a burning desire? Holy cow. I mean, we're all through? I don't want this thing to be through. Let's come back for another hour. Oh, wait a minute. We'd have to pay for that, wouldn't we? Yeah, okay. So I guess we got to get out of here. Let's close the meeting. I'm not mad at you. I love you.
You what?
I'm not mad at you. I love you.
I can't hear you.
I love you.
I can't hear you.
Even with your blonde streak.
With your blonde streaks.
Oh.
Okay, we all hooked up? Let this circle represent the unity of our fellowship. Let's have a moment of silence for those who are still suffering, and then we'll say the Lord's Prayer together. Thank you. Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, darling. Sarah?
Ask you another clarifying question, briefly. This one, if I'm understanding this correctly, which I thought I did, is, this is really